can see the screen. Awesome, thank you, Barry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Beth Zima?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and then Chance?
I can hear you. I can see part of the screen.
Okay, do you see a 7th Avenue and Bethany home?
The screen just looks white to me.
Okay, can everybody else see the screen?
Yeah, I agree. It looks a little washed out.
Okay.
Mine looks fine.
Mine also looks fine.
Okay, so maybe on your end, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody at least was on the meeting, and I shared my screen. Okay, so, all right, well, now that we know that that works, and everybody here is here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and officially turn this over to our co-chair to officially start, do roll call, check form, do all that good stuff. And then we'll probably go through and do another roll call with everybody online again. So Chad? It's 6:06 officially, so Chad, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And for roll call, we've got myself, Chad Johnson, Pam is here, Perry, and Stan Watts. Do we have anybody else online?
Lynn Morrow's here.
Oh, Lynn, you're there. You're here too. Great. But
Chance Peterson.
I was
Maybe.
wondering if
Yes.
Chance was you. Okay, so
Okay.
Marshall.
Okay, Chance
Yeah.
Peterson is here.
good.
Yes.
So do we have 5? Yes, you have your 4.
I got you there.
Okay.
Chance, thank you. And I think that's it at this point. So, see, Marshall is, or you said it was going to be absent, but you're here. Good. And-
Marshall.
Yeah, you're going
Marshall
to
Chance.
Right.
Yeah. Correct. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Well, and that's probably my fault. I probably put it wrong on the sheet. So it's been a while for me, if you remember that. So I just have to get into the group again and remember everybody's nicknames and stuff. So
Let's go ahead and also include those that are here representing ADQ. And just so those that are online know, have got your names.
Eric Manline, ADEQ Project Manager of 16th Street and Camelback website.
Thanks, sir.
Rick Zeiss, Attorney General's Office.
Okay.
Michael Morales, ADEQ Project Manager for 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road and Central and Camelback.
Teresa Marks, Community Information Coordinator.
And of course, Wendy's here, so everybody can hear that online?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Wendy, we're gonna,
can we do a roll call of people online so we know kind of who's who online?
I'm Lynn Morrow. I'm an ADQ Citizens Advisory Board member.
Lynn, thanks.
Harris Nelson, Salt River Project.
Thanks,
Beth
Chris.
Zima, City of Phoenix.
And Barry, you're representing,
Attending as an interested neighbor near Central and Camelback.
great.
Awesome. Glad to have you join us. Thank you.
Regards to any changes to the meetings minutes back in 2019, which was just a few months ago. I looked over those. I didn't see any changes that I need to go through from what I could recall.
Likewise.
Stan?
Anybody else online?
Lynn or Chance, do you have anything to add to the minutes?
I would move that we accept them.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
So real quick, do you see the meeting room right now, folks are online? Okay.
Yes.
I was trying to get the right screen to share so you could actually see the meeting taking place. Okay, thank you very much. Just want to make sure.
So let's go ahead and,
Oh, real quick, sorry. So we have one more ADQ employee en route. She actually is from our Tucson office, so she's on her way. There was apparently a little bit of weather, a lot of weather in Tucson, so she got held up. Her name is Hazel Cox. She will be talking about 7th Street in Missouri as, that's it, right? Because Michael has two. Okay, so we're going to actually have 7th Street in Missouri go last to accommodate for her traveling up here. So just making a quick change to the agenda for those online as well. So I think I had it last anyway, so that's perfect.
okay,
See, I knew it.
good.
Okay, so I think housekeeping wise, you all know where the restrooms are? We're good? Okay, please watch out for the cords.
And
Okay?
there's some water where we need to be, right around the corner there. I think the only other items then we'll go on to is the discussion of the ADEQ presentation of the board.
Do you want to do the presentations first? Because that's what that is.
Going to do that? Okay. I was just following along there. That's fine. Let's go to the presentations first then.
We could do the charter and the co-chairs and stuff, or we could do kind of waiting for Hazel.
You want to do that? Okay.
Actually, she's probably. Oh, as I pick up my phones for those here, just like I got a notification, if we could turn the phones off or down, just to be respectful for our speakers and our board. And if you have more than one like me, make sure they're both off. Okay. Okay. So CAB members, we're going to do the two quick CAB items real quick, and then we'll get into the presentations as we kind of wait for Hazel. Chad?
So you're on number 12? No, I'm sorry, let's be up too long. Where are we at here?
So the charter was sent
Excuse me,
out.
I apologize.
Okay. So let's go ahead and do the charter.
Oh, that's what I don't have. I've got two of these. All right, that was it.
Okay, so the charter was sent out to the CAB members. There's not a lot to change. It's kind of just more administrative and housekeeping. Mainly because the law changed for CAB meetings themselves, and it was under revised statutes. It used to say that the CABs are supposed to meet at least 4 times a year to meet with ADQ to get information and stuff. So the law did change to where it now states that the CAB shall meet up to several times a year with ADQ to receive site briefings, progress reports, and other information. The meeting shall be held at a location agreed to by the CAB members. More or less frequent meetings can be held if deemed necessary by the CAB. So really, it's taking out the requirement of 4 and leaving it open to have as many or as little as needed. The other aspect of the law that was changed is with added in is that meetings can be called by a CAB member, a public person, a stakeholder. So basically, meetings can be called at any time to see if it's time to meet or not. So we just had to update the charter to take out that 4. And then we're just adding for a little bit, just more, again, housekeeping on item E, that instead of 3 weeks to get us the information, changing it to 2 weeks before the meeting, and then the new date. So pretty simple stuff, but it still needs to get done.
So do we need a motion to accept the new charter?
Yes, you need to accept the changes, yes.
So I motion that we accept the changes and comply with the new statutes and
Second it.
Seconded by Stan. Is there any discussion or comments or questions from our CAB members online?
I have a question. In section D, the up to several, does that come directly from the new statute?
Yes, I actually have the yes, it actually is from the at least up to 7 times per year. Yeah, I know that it does say, you know what, no, I don't think this is actually right.
The statute does
Up
not
to
specify.
several, it's just about as
It
vague as
says
can
you
be.
can have meetings. It doesn't-
Yeah, it actually doesn't specify, so I do apologize, actually this isn't correct. So basically D has to change to adhere to statute, so we'll get the actual correct wording in there, so.
There is no wording in the statute, though. It just says can have meetings. There's no.
Yeah,
wording.
but there is actual wording about like who can call the meeting, and a meeting can be called by a CAB member or a stakeholder and that kind of stuff. So we actually need to update D. So I'd like to table this, actually, to make sure we have the actual correct wording of D, to acknowledge the fact that we don't have the forward, and make sure it actually matches what statute says. So thank you, Chance, for that.
Okay.
Okay? Because but everything else in D is going to stay the same. It should be at a location agreed to by CAB members, or let's forget meetings may be held if actually that's going to change too because of the statutes. All right, we will change D. So that's some of me coming in late, and so I apologize for that. I should have checked that, and at the next meeting we'll make sure to have that changed to actually reflect the statute. What I'll do for the CAB members, I'm going to email you individually the actual link to the new statute where it actually says it, what the language actually says, because you need to know as CAB members, just so that you can be aware of that. Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Because we can, actually, yeah, so I think we need to deny your motion and then table it. Or just not vote on it.
Yeah, let's not vote on
Any
it.
other comments before we officially go to a vote or not a vote? Okay, no?
No.
So call for the vote then.
Do we want to go ahead and vote on this at this time, or just table it until then? So, all in favor of tabling it, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any want to go ahead and vote on it as of now? Okay. Go ahead and table it until our next meeting then.
Okay, so Hazel has arrived. Okay, so do we want to jump into the presentation?
Yeah, let's go ahead and
All right.
let's start. Hazel, do you want to start with?
No, actually, we're going to let her decompress from traffic and we'll start
Okay.
having to go last if that's okay. Okay. You good? Okay. Now we're going to stick with the agenda. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience on that one.
Michael, we'll have you. You're going to take over?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm going to be
Okay.
on this side so I can walk through.
Switch this.
You know? Yeah, oh yeah, you can turn it.
Which one are you going to do first of all?
7th Amendment.
7th Avenue, Bethany? Everyone online has 7th Avenue and Bethany home pulled up.
I think she's going to put it on the screen.
Does that work? Okay. Good evening. I'm Michael Morales. I'm the project manager for the 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund, I'll be referring to that as WARF, the rest of these presentations, or for my presentations, registry site. And tonight I'm going to just provide kind of a brief overview of the site status and talk about some recent observations. So as I'm going through the slides, if you have any questions, feel free to just get my attention and ask away. I'll try to be going back and forth between these slides. It's not changing for me, but what I see is the work. Okay, so the work process. Okay.
So do it. I'll flip it and you can go split on this. Does that help?
No, this is. I'll
Okay.
skip that. No, thank you.
This is the fun stuff of a hybrid meeting with
Yeah.
2 laptops.
All right, so on the screen, you guys should see, on the screen, you should see work process right here. That's what we're seeing. So this site was placed on the registry list in around about August 2004, and it made its way through the WARF process, remedial investigation, feasibility study, proposed remedial action, and the record of decision was signed in June 2016. So that means right now we're in the remedy implementation side of things, and we'll also refer to that as our O&M phase for our activities. And we'll remain in that stage until we achieve our remedial objectives, which is cleaning up groundwater to below all the regulatory standards, i.e. aquifer water quality standards. Good.
That's why I did it. There you go.
I'll try that again. So now we have, let's show it.
You've got something going on weird that it's highlighted in yellow on your screen, and I'm not quite between that.
Is it because you're presenting that screen?
Yeah. It should be. Oh, yep. Pardon me. Again, all the fun stuff of a hybrid meeting. Hold on. Thank you. I do have the wrong screen shared. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now,
You gotta make that one the host.
the Whitney Flood should be the host. No.
That screen needs to be the host.
Yep.
But you gotta do it on that machine. You gotta make those.
You got a share over there?
Yeah.
Well, it's very confusing, believe me. You gotta make that screen the host so that
It's not letting me do it. It's the fun. It's not letting me do it. That's the problem.
Can I just operate on this?
Host disabled, participant stream share.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
You can't because that's actually connected. So,
It was working perfectly fine until a minute ago.
so I don't know how to disable screen share.
Sorry, guys.
Do you have any idea where that is? There's a way to do it if I know somebody that.
Well, I think I'm gonna just log off.
Oh, you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, if folks want to go through the PowerPoints, I can just get a paper copy while you're working on that. That helps. Maybe. I don't know if it helps people on that.
So can somebody online tell us, what, are you seeing the presentation? Are you seeing the meeting?
Presentation.
Okay, so go ahead and just go through it on there.
You've got the settings somehow, so you disabled.
PowerPoint slideshow.
Change that.
Yeah, I changed it. I need to stop sharing.
you know what?
It's in the Zoom settings.
Yep, I can. Yep, I know exactly what it's doing. There we go.
Okay, there you go.
All right, I had it on a separate screen. Okay, so now we should be able to go back to here. There we go. Now, there we go.
We're not seeing it now.
Yeah.
You gotta take it off the two screen.
I did. What do you see now? Okay.
Wanna be. But no one here.
I can't even get out of here. Here we go. Why does it keep doing that? Duplicate. There we go. No, I don't know anything. Okay, so now do you see it?
Yes, we did.
People online, do you see that now?
No. Now I see the meeting room screens.
You want display settings, you want the settings.
No, yeah, and so it's 1, 2. Just want to duplicate the displays.
Show on only one.
Okay. Sorry, Mighty Eagle, and apologize to everybody on.
Now you've got with
this
this
one.
screen. You've got the wrong screen it's showing on.
I know.
Oops, click on
That
two.
blue light, huh?
Show on the team.
Did not count. Do it now. I don't see this at all.
Well, you can do it from that. Just up there. Okay, reset. We can do it. You can't do this share without.
You can set up the, I was working this way.
But then it defaults. So, okay, you're on now.
Set up the Bethany,
Yes.
presentation mode. There we go, that's the mode you're looking for.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, now,
Now you got to share it.
now, okay. Zoom controls.
You need to make that person a host.
I'm Wendy Flett. That's 82. There. Share screen. There you go. Now you see.
There we go.
You got
Yep.
You see it now?
Yep, WQARF process.
All right,
Yeah. Ooh, and then
There you go.
you guys did it.
Good work.
I pinned you over here so I can
Okay.
help.
That might have been some of it.
Okay.
Okay. So let me move this out of the way.
Oh, don't you love technology?
There you go. Okay.
You
Yay.
want to go back a couple screens?
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, can everybody see the site location map? Online?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you,
So,
Wendy.
so here we have the site location, which essentially shows us an overview of the site. Also the plume, the tetrachloroethylene plume extent that exceeds the aquifer water quality standard. This kind of plume shape and distribution has been it's generally pretty close to the the outline of the plume at the time of the record of decision. So we haven't seen too much change on the peripheries of the plume. As I go through some slides, a few more slides down the presentation, we'll start looking at some of the work that we're doing. So in the heart of the plume, we are doing some work, but generally the outline remains the same. So why do we need to remediate out here? So currently we have tetrachloroethylene, PCE, trichloroethylene, vinyl chloride, cis-1,2 dichloroethylene, all chlorinated solvents at concentrations in groundwater above the WQS. So we need to remediate that. Contaminants of concern historically at the site are PC, TC, and VC. Cis-1,2 DC has kind of popped onto our radar above the AWQS following implementation of our remedial technology. And I'll go through that remedial technology to kind of paint a better picture of why we're seeing that. So the selected remedy for the site, as outlined in the record of decision, was in situ enhanced reductive dechlorination. I'll probably be referring that to ERD, the remainder of the presentation. That technology is an active remedial technology. It includes injections of amendments to the aquifer, and also includes performance monitoring to monitor ERD progress. Another component is monitored natural attenuation. That's more of a passive technology, and the purpose of that is to kind of look at the natural degradation of the plume that's on the peripheries outside the influence of reductive dechlorination. Once we finish up with our ERD implementation, we'll most likely transition into a natural attenuation monitoring program in those areas as well. We do have a contingency for wellhead treatment at the Salt River project well that's down gradient of the plume in the vicinity of Maryland and 7th Avenue. We haven't implemented that technology to date. So enhanced reductive dechlorination, what is that? It's a technology that is essentially the application of amendments to the groundwater, to the aquifer, that promote the degradation of chlorinated solvents to less harmful species. And ERD kind of has a roadmap that's been demonstrated and we can follow and observe. And what that is that we start with at this site we started with PCE, our chlorinated solvent, and as we progress, we'll see the chemistry turn into a compound that's reduced by 1 chlorine each way. We'll follow that pathway from PCE, TCE, cis-1,2-DC, vinyl chloride, all the way till we get to ethane. So that's generally what we're looking for as far as degradation of the chlorinated solvents. The process generally includes 3 kind of major components, I would say. The first is biostimulation, and that's when we go in there and we inject a carbon substrate. And what we're doing there is kind of creating the right conditions for the microbial population to degrade the chlorinated solvents. Bioaugmentation is the injection of a specialized bacteria that's known to degrade, facilitate the degradation of chlorinated solvents if they're not native in the aquifer. At this site, they are not. So we go ahead and use Dihalococoides to facilitate that degradation. Third, performance monitoring. We get out there and collect some samples. What we're really trying to do is kind of assess the conditions. We look at total organic carbon. That's the food. That tells us, are the conditions right? At least it's one component of determining whether those conditions are right for the bacteria to do work its magic. And we also look at the VOCs, the chlorinated solvents that you see up there, to see are we following that roadmap. Here we have a map that shows all the infrastructure that we have at the site, quite a few monitoring wells. We have 3 separate injection transects. First on the Bayless property, I believe those were installed around about 2016, shortly after the ROD in that time frame. Moved on to Bears Lane and installed all those wells, I think, between 2018 and 2020. Roseling has the newest set of transects that were installed in 2021 in the spring. So we got quite a bit of infrastructure out there, and we go to do our injections. It can take some time to hit all those wells. So what have we done in fiscal year 22? Generally, our program at this site involves a fall performance monitoring event followed by an injection event, and we also repeat that in the spring. So this past, in 2021, we went out there in September and October and collected our performance samples, followed that up by a substrate injection event in November of 2021. So when we're doing our performance monitoring, how our process works is that we go out there, we collect our TOC samples, our VOC samples, and that helps us design the injection program that we're going to follow up with. So out here, we're always going to be coupled with the performance monitoring event, followed with an ERD, with the injection event. And that's what we did out here. In the spring, we went out there in February 2022, collected those samples, followed that up with an injection event in April. We also collect site-wide groundwater samples. So that includes all the wells along the entire infrastructure, and that's when we're really looking at the general extent of the plume. So it gives us some information on the outside. Performance monitoring, we really want to know what's going on with the ERD. Annual monitoring, we want to look at the full extent. So the next couple slides I'll be going through is I'm going to be showing the transects at each one of the different transects and a few selected wells that I thought are worthwhile to take a look at, and just kind of give you a picture of what we're looking at when we're receiving the data back and trying to make our decisions as far as ERD injections. So Bayless property, we've got a few injection wells there. I highlighted the two monitoring wells in red, just to let you know that we're going to be talking about those in a few slides. Kind of a benefit of those wells right there is that they're in the down gradient area, and so what that helps us do is we have an injection transect, we do the injections. With the RD, you kind of want to figure out, well, how far can I reach out and touch and remediate? And those allow us to do that in that down gradient area. So it's kind of fortunate that we have those wells there, and it paints a picture for us to see the good work we can do. NW4, this well has historically been the hottest well at the site. It's on the source area property. We can see that between 2016 and 2018, it kind of straddled that 1,000 mark, a little bit above the 1,000 mark, until we started our full-scale implementation of ERD. And what we see is the degradation of PC, a reduction in PC concentrations coupled with an increase in those other daughter products. And that correlates back to that slide where I showed that roadway, right? So what we're looking for is when we see that PC concentration reduce, we're looking for those other constituents to rise up. We want to know that that chemistry is taking place. And so that's what we have, right? We have the reduction in PC, increase in daughter products. At the end of the day, the microbials that we inject in there should be able to reduce all of those chlorinated solvents down to ethane. So as we move along, we might see some fluctuation, but the end game is really all constituents below the AWQS. MW22 is another downgrading monitoring well. It's newer. It was installed briefly before the full-scale ERD implementation. A little bit different with this well. We completed the injections and we've seen an uptick in PC concentrations, but subsequent reduction in concentrations. Chemistry follows that pathway: reduction of PCE, increase in other chlorinated solvents. And towards the end there, we kind of see it starting to, in 2022, we kind of start seeing it to follow a downward trajectory, and we're kind of hoping and monitoring that that continues to take place. So that's Bayless property. Barry's Lane. Barry's Lane, we have quite a few injection wells. We don't have any down gradient monitoring wells, so we look at the chemistry in the injection wells to kind of see if the chemistry is taking place and makes sense. We do have a monitoring well, MW10, that's cross gradient. It's tucked in between those two, 16 and 17. And all similar to the other site, I've got the wells that we're going to see a figure on highlighted in red. IW18 was installed in 2020, in the spring of 2020. That well, of all those wells on Barrage Lane, that well had the highest concentrations observed prior to any injections. I believe the baseline concentration for that well was around about 500. Implemented ERD. Chemistry followed suit with the ERD process. Reduction in PCE, increase in daughter products, and it's still showing a downward decline, so that's good news. We'll keep an eye on that, continue our injections, and wait for us to get below the aquifer water quality standards. MW10 is that cross gradient well that's tucked between 16 and 17. Interesting well. For the most part, concentrations range to a little bit over 100 to, I guess maybe that's in the 60 to 70 range between 2016 and somewhere in 2021. Implemented ERD on Barrage Lane in April of 2020. Still didn't see a change in that monitoring well for at least until 2022, so it's kind of interesting. It's good news because it's a well that we're not injecting into, and it means the process is taking place, right? We inject into these wells, and the hope is that it will clean up the groundwater around the other wells. So that's all good news there, and we'll keep monitoring that well to make sure that the concentrations continue to decline. Rose Lane, our newest injection well transect at the site. So this is really new, so we don't have a lot of information, probably about a year and a half's worth of information from these wells. We have some cross-gradient monitoring wells, 21 and 7, that are there. Haven't seen much result in those wells just yet, so I didn't think it was worth kind of throwing those up here. But I do have IW27, which is an interesting well. It was the hottest, so this well exhibited the highest concentrations of all those wells on Rose Lane prior to injections. Installed the well, concentrations came back slightly above 1,000, pretty high. Implemented ERD a few months later. The date scale here is it's really a few months. It's not a lot of time, so it might seem like there's a lot of time between, but there's not. We implemented ERD and we observed that classic pattern, reduction of PC, increase in daughter products. Continued monitoring. Towards the end, this last annual monitoring event, we did see an uptick in some of those concentrations. It's not surprising, it just means that there's a little bit more work to do. We don't have too much data, so we'll continue to monitor those wells and make sure that they continue to decline. So next steps for the site for fiscal year 2023, we'll continue with our ERD operation and maintenance, injections, performance monitoring. We have some wells on the Bayless property, some injection wells on the Bayless property that we need to do a little redevelopment. Hoping to try to tackle in the next couple months. We'll continue on. We'll have our site-wide groundwater monitoring event at towards the end of the year. And in progress, we have a periodic site review that's currently being prepared for the site, and that'll kind of take a look at that report will take a look at what's our progress since implementing bigger picture progress since implementing the technologies post record of decision. Questions?
All right, if anybody online has questions, if you want to type in a Q and then hit enter while you're typing up your question, and we know to wait for you. So just let us know if anybody online has a question. Just put the Q in the chat. In the meantime, I'll turn it over to Chad to see if his in-person cab has any questions.
Is it working as you had projected, or had you done based on other sites in other places? I mean, we're not the very first site to do this.
I would say that it is generally working. The technology is working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But as far as the projections in the record of decision with regards to timeframes and whatnot, I don't know that we have enough information to kind of really gauge that. Because, you know, the record of decision was signed in 2016, but we really didn't get full-scale implementation until 2018. So it's as far as timeframe goes, it's kind of hard to tell. But the technology is taking place. So.
And we have soft or hard water here, and we're running generally around 8. Does that hard water factor impact it at all, or is that calculated into the bacteria that you choose to use?
We haven't seen any complications tied to the alkalinity or hard water, except for those wells that I was mentioning that we might need to that we're planning to rehabilitate out there. Those wells we injected emulsified vegetable oil, which is kind of oily substrate, and we're under the belief that there's some biofouling going on in those injection wells, which is why we're going out there. And so that might, that the alkalinity might play a part into that, but we won't really know until we get a sample of that material that's in those wells and send that off for analysis, which we're planning to do.
Michael, on your charts, you give the PCE and the daughter products, but you don't show ethene. Why is that? And how do we know whether ethene is out there, and does ethene have any standards that need to be applied to it?
So standards, not that I'm aware of, for that constituent. We don't regularly monitor for that constituent because we know we still have high concentrations that we need to deal with. So, what we're really looking for is that vinyl chloride concentration to drop off. If that drops off, then, we can make the assumption that the pathway went to full completion. But, we haven't looked at that regularly.
Does it volatilize into the air when it gets to ethene, or does it stay in the soil?
I don't know. I believe it stays in the groundwater, but I'm not too sure.
Okay.
We do have a question online from Barry. He's our public person. So real quick, Barry, before we go to the public, we check and see if the CAB has any other questions or clarifications. Is there anybody else online from the CAB or here in person that has any more questions? Okay.
Just following up on that last question regarding the ethene. The ethene, we do perform a specific analysis, and it's called RSK, and we're looking for dissolved gases. So, I would say that what we're looking for is the dissolved gases, ethene in that groundwater, but the fate of that, I can't say where that is.
Thanks.
So the question is, what's the projected date for remediation completion? When can the Bayless property owner place the property to productive reuse? Are brownfields restricted from economic use until full remediation? So answer what you know, and if you don't, we can always follow up.
So projected date at the time of the ROD was 7 years for ERD implementation, but that's a timing that we don't have enough information to answer on the full extent of remediation. Brownfield, I don't know the answer to that question, and productive use, I don't know the answer to that either.
So we have a brownfields coordinator, so we can follow up with the brownfields coordinator, Barry, and get that answer for you as much as we can. So the projected date for remediation completion was 7 years, but obviously it looks like that's not going to be enough.
Based on, it's hard to say.
Yeah. So we just, so we're just going to have to keep on. That's also why we do a 5-year review, is to see, are we seeing what we wanted to see with that. Is that almost done?
Yeah.
Okay. And when the 5-year review comes out, that'll be available to the public. We can take a look at that. And then about the property owner and the property and productive use, that is something that also too might be used, you said that you're not really sure anybody can build on there yet.
Well, I mean, that's always a discussion we can have as far as like what infrastructure is necessary out there, but that's another discussion, right?
Okay, so it pretty much depends on whoever the property owner is and what they want to do. They would need to approach us, and then like Mike said, it depends on what wants to be built there. Okay, does that at least answer one of the questions, and we'll definitely follow up on the brownfield one. Are there any other questions from anybody online? We'll give it a couple seconds. Okay, so just in case for any follow-up, this is Michael's contact information. Barry, if you wouldn't mind emailing me. Actually, Mike and I are basically what you asked, so that we can get some further information back for you, especially on that brownfields. Okay?
Sound good?
Yeah, I don't see anything else on chat and cab members, so we'll move on to the next one.
Thank you. I'll have it.
Thank you, everybody. Let's see.
All right. Move to Eric.
You got it.
You good for that?
Okay, so let's go back to, so, New 16th Street, right? Oh, here, Anatole, if you want to do
I had to get up early this morning. I've been going
Okay.
straight.
Okay, so does everybody see the 16th Street in Camelback?
Yep.
Great, thank you. All right.
Okay. All right, thank you everyone for coming here tonight. Again, I'm Eric Manline. I'm the project manager of the 16th Street Camelback Wharf Site, part of the Central Phoenix Wharf Sites.
There they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, hopefully y'all can see the map, but this site is in the very lower right-hand corner, the southeast corner of the Central Phoenix Wharf Sites area. I think right now it's probably the smallest wharf site we have in this area. This site was listed back in 1999. Right now it's in the record of decision, which was signed in 2017, and we're in the implementation of the remedy, which is M&A, or monitored natural attenuation, with in situ ERD enhancements as an alternative. So basically I'm picking up where we left off during the last CAB meeting. Not a whole lot of activity at this site. Concentrations are very low in all the wells, and I'll go into that later on in the presentation. But right now we're just doing groundwater monitoring biannual. So we've done 2 in fiscal year 21, 2 in fiscal year 22. We do a spring and a fall groundwater monitoring event. The next one is due actually in October. So this slide shows, hopefully you can see that, but this slide shows data going all the way back to 1999 when the site was first listed. We had a high concentration of PCE of 160 micrograms per liter, and that's steadily declined all the way up to the last groundwater monitoring event in March 2022. We actually had some 1,2-dichloroethane and 1,2-dichloropropane in the southern part of the plume. We had a concentration of 1,2-DCA of 4,000 micrograms per liter and 15 micrograms per liter for 1,2-DCP. But that's all of those concentrations have decreased to below the laboratory detection limit, and it's remained so. up until the present date. Right now, PC is the only contaminant concern detected, not for water quality, above aquifer water quality standards, and it's only detected in one well so far. We'll go into that in the next slide. So this slide shows concentration trends of the wells where we had detected levels of PCE. I didn't include our sentinel wells where we have non-detects. But you can see we've had generally a declining trend in all the wells where we've had defects. This line here shows where we conducted the first round of ERD injections back in 2016, and we've seen a decrease in trend in pretty much all the wells. These two wells here, that's MW10. Yeah.
The people online can't see.
Yeah, I'll explain it.
Thanks,
This well here in green, that's MW10. This well in the dark blue is MW1. You can see we have a spike in concentrations on those wells. Both of those wells went dry. I actually installed a replacement well for MW10, that's MW10R, which is in that kind of light yellow-orange color. MW1 was replaced by OW Observation 1D, which is that light blue color. We think that spike in concentrations was probably because we were collecting the sample from the very bottom of the well right before it went dry. Probably a great deal of sediment in that well. Very likely skewed the concentrations high. Don't know if that's exactly representative of what was in the aquifer at that time. But the good news is everything else is decreased, specifically after we did the ERD injections, until we only have one well, MW10R, which is above the PC aquifer water quality standard. And it's been that way for the past two semi-annual groundwater sampling events. We did an initial round of ERD, as I mentioned, in 2016. Then we did two more in 2018 after the rod was signed. And then we did another two in 2019. And we haven't done any ERD injections since. This well shows the monitoring well field within the wharf site. Probably can't see that too well on that, but these arrows show a groundwater flow direction. Blue arrows, it's generally in a westerly direction. Groundwater levels have remained constant in the last 2 years of groundwater monitoring, around 82 feet below ground surface. The green wells, green colored wells are the monitoring wells. MW11R, that's a replacement well. This used to be the southern sentinel well, that went dry, so I installed a new well there. We have MW14, MW13, MW10R, of course, OW1D, and we have MW9.
And those are up in like the right-hand corner of pink.
Okay. The orange wells, these are the lines in the central part of that northern plume. The orange wells is where the ERD injections took place. MW10R, which is just to the west of 16th Street. I installed that well back in 2018 as monitoring well to monitor the ERD injections in the central part of the plume. Source area is actually up here by MW1 and OW1D. So really there isn't a plume to report. If we drew a plume, it would just be a very small circle around MW10D. All these other wells are below the water quality standard.
So that's good news.
Very good news. We're hoping we can delist this site after the next couple of groundwater monitoring events.
That plume would be around MW10D?
I'm sorry, MW10R.
Okay.
I say D, and then MW10R.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So future plan work, we're just going to continue to monitor and sample groundwater. Right at this point, we won't be doing any more in situ injections. Just isn't cost effective at this point. concentrations are just so low. There's not enough carbon in the PCB to really stimulate the Helicobacter and other bacteria. So we're just watching it and seeing what we can do. Next couple of groundwater sampling events, we'll see. Maybe there's something else we could maybe do to knock it down, but the way the trend is going, it's very favorable. And so we will be able to delist this one in the very near future. If anyone has any further questions, something you think about after this staff presentation, feel free to contact me. I believe you'll all get copies of the presentation, so we have all that information.
Well, the CAB does, and then the public, for the public online, a copy of the presentation will be up online within 3 days, right? Within 3 days, so you can get copies, and you can also email us for copies if you want to. But we have to have everything out within 3 days. All right, so Chad, you want to
Any questions?
Any questions? CAB members online, any questions?
CAB members online have any questions?
This is Chance. I have a question, and Eric, I'm not sure if you can answer it, but you talked about delisting. Hopefully the site will be delisted. Is there any sort of continued monitoring after delisting to see if the threshold is reached again?
No. After we delist this site, we'll abandon all the wells in accordance with ADWR requirements. That's how it's written in the ROD. But we won't delist this. We won't be comfortable delisting until we've had a minimum of 2 consecutive groundwater monitoring events where all concentrations are below the aquifer water quality standard. In fact, we may even do 1 or 2 extra. It's going to depend on the director if he feels comfortable delisting it. So yeah, we're gonna make sure that everything is steady state, and we're not seeing any spikes in any concentrations. So there isn't a chance that something else could come up.
And those monitoring events, are they yearly, quarterly?
No, they're semi-annual.
Okay.
One in the spring, one in the fall.
Okay, so basically 2 years of samples.
Well, 1 year. 1 year, 2 samples, but I feel comfortable extending it to another sample.
Yeah.
Just to be sure. We don't want to have any type of rebound.
Did that answer your question, Chase?
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Lynn, you've been awful quiet this meeting so far. Okay. All right, any other questions? Type a Q in the chat real quick. Are you waiting to type? If not, then I will move on to the next presentation.
Okay. Mike, back up?
I'm back.
All right.
I'm back in the saddle of the
Water real quick.
And this line, it'll go a lot smoother, because we've got it all set up now. See? You are CNC, Central and Camelback. Now we know presentation is over. There's your load.
Good evening again, Mike Morales, project manager for the Central Camelback WQARF site. Similar comment, as I'm going to be providing a brief overview of the site and some observations. If any questions come up during the presentation, feel free to grab my attention. Where we're at in the work process. So this site was registered in June of 2000, went through the remedial investigation, feasibility study, proposed remedial action in 2017, which lands us to where we're currently at in the record of decision. That document's in progress, and we're...
Maybe. Sorry, did not share. There you go. Let's get you back in the presentation. My fault. There you go. Okay.
Record of decision's in progress. While the record of decision, which outlines the selected remedy, has not been yet completed, we have been performing some activities as early response actions out at the site. So Central Camelback is located at Central Camelback. There's a site view to kind of give you a general outline of where the site is.
Hold up a minute, I think we're having a bandwidth issue, because people online are not seeing these slides transfer. It looks like it's loading on my end. It's currently stuck on the title slide. Okay. So let me stop sharing, and then I'll get back to it. All right? We will try again.
Bad luck.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just go home. Stay away from it.
It's probably the owl because it's like having a bunch of people online.
It's probably working like overtime. Okay, so now we're there. I'm going to do presentation mode. We want to do it in this mode. Sure, real quick. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close out because we don't know. Screen. Let's try that. I had more than one open. Okay.
Yay!
Okay. I'm getting there. There we go. No?
Make sure everyone has the camera off, that helps. too.
Yeah, everyone's camera is off except for the owl. Except for some reason it is still stuck on the title slide.
I think we could see your mouse moving around the title slide, so you were projecting.
So if it shows up, I'm going to do screen 2, share. Okay, I think we got it. Hold up. Great, Michael.
I'll call in sick for the next one.
Yay! We got it. All right. So we was talking about where you're on the process. We got it. Okay. It's getting tired.
All right, so hopefully you guys can see this slide now. Hit the WQARF registry in June 2000, made its way through the progress. PRAP was finalized in June of 2017, and now we're in the progress of preparing that record of decision for the site. Record of decision is not yet in place, however, we have been implementing some early response actions at the site so far. And they've been around for a little while. Central Camelback, here we have the picture of Central Camelback. The box showing the general outline of the site in that area. All right, so what's the need for remediation? Currently we have PCE concentrations in groundwater that exceed the aquifer water quality standard. We also have PCE concentrations in soil that exceed the Arizona soil remediation levels. Historically, PC and TC have been the contaminants of concern at this site. However, the last couple monitoring events, TC has been below the AWQS, which is good news. So jumping into remedial activities for soil in 2022, I mentioned early response actions a bit ago, and that's what we have on the screen here. We have a soil vapor extraction system that's been operating out there since probably 2007 or so. It's currently in a pulsed operation mode, which means it operates for a period of time and it is turned off for a period of time to allow things to re-equilibrate. During this last year, we had 2 3-month operating periods between September and December 2021, and then in the spring of 22, between March and May. As part of that kind of SVE operation, we collect soil gas samplings that generally coincide with the time that we shut down the system and the time after the rebound period, right before we get ready to start that system, so that we have baseline concentrations of when we're starting it and when we're stopping it. We completed those in December 2022. After that, or no, it's December 2021. It should be. That was performed after that fall extraction pulse event, and then we came back out in March of 2022 after that rebound period to collect some samples to see what the rebound was, and then following shutdown in May. So we've got a PCE concentration versus time map here. There's a lot. Seems like a lot going on. A couple things that I would point out is first being the jumping around of the concentrations, but the data points. The other would be the blue shaded areas. Those correspond with the operating periods. So if it's shaded blue, that means the system was in operation. And then that orange bar up top, which is the residential soil remediation level. That's our target, right? That's our cleanup criteria for this contaminant at the site. Big picture, what we see is a lot of fluctuation that generally corresponds with those operating periods. We turn the system on, concentrations drop. We turn the system off, they rebound. If we look at it a little bit kind of in the smaller picture, I guess, I would say if you looked at the data points between March of 2022 and then May of 2022, there was an operational period then. What we've seen is that we had a really high concentration in SV3M that was above that criteria, and after 3 months we reduced that to a really low concentration, orders of magnitude lower than that rebound concentration. So what that's telling us is that we can effectively reduce those PCE concentrations in a relatively short period of time. However, we're still dealing with that rebound after a relatively short period of time. So, end goal for this is that we continue operation. Our intermittent schedule might be modified as we move along, but the goal is for us to operate the system, have that concentration come down, and have no rebound. And that's what we're looking for. We want to stay below that orange line there. So that's kind of the big picture and small picture from recent observations out there. This is an overview. So what I did mention in the previous slide is that our soil contamination above the residential standards is limited to the source area property where the dry cleaner previously operated. So all those exceedances and that well that was showing that rebound is located on this property, and it's that gray hash line is the outline of that former dry cleaner. So it makes sense that we're seeing those higher concentrations there. We're seeing that high rebound around or about 20 to 25 feet, so it's down there a ways. And what you'll also see is as you step away from that well, concentrations will decrease. So that tells us that when we do continue our remediation, we need to focus in on that area right there, and we can do that with the infrastructure that we have. That was soil. Do you want me to stop for questions on soil before I move on to groundwater?
So the goal is that you're going to continue remediating this within the soil to achieve a final remedial result of something below the soil remedial, the residential soil remediation level, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I mean, these rebounds seem very dramatic. What does that suggest? Does it mean that there's a lot of stuff still there? Or
not necessarily that there's a residual mass that's at a high concentration that adds organic to the soil. What it tells us is that our remediation is what it tells us is that our remediation is really limited. It's limited by the rate of diffusion, right? We have these pockets of this residual mass, and that residual mass desorbs a lot slower than our SV system can sweep it out. So we've done some sampling out there, and I don't know that we have any information that suggests there's still a large mass in that area because the system has been running for so long, and we are seeing that response in that one particular well. So, I mean, I would use those pieces of information to kind of make those interpretations.
much as long as you see those big jumps, you're gonna keep running the system.
Yeah, and we're gonna try some additional things out there that I'll discuss here shortly.
Okay, any other questions on soil before we go to groundwater? Is there any questions online about the first half, because that covers the soil aspect of Central and Camelback from our CAB members? I don't see any cues. Okay, if you do think of one later or you can't type quick enough, we'll ask again. All right, let's move on to groundwater.
Groundwater. All right, so fiscal year 22 remedial activities for groundwater. So we have for some time performed semi-annual groundwater monitoring events. This past year, we went out in October in the fall. And they generally correspond to a fall and spring sampling event. So we're out there October 21 and then went back out in April of 2022. PC concentrations between those both events ranged between essentially non-detect 0.314 to 7.34, which is slightly above that AWQS. That concentration or that exceedance above the AWQS is in one well currently, and we're only seeing that in CC4. I mentioned TCE, we've been seeing that below the AWQS, and during this past year we didn't see it. The max concentration was 3.6, so that's below the AWQS. Other items we've been working on, system decommissioning. We've got the additional, we identified some monitoring wells and some extraction wells that were kind of redundant to what we're doing out there. They were no longer needed to complete our objectives, and so we went on ahead and abandoned those wells this past year. There's quite a few. Overview of the site again, with some concentration contours shown there on the figure. As I mentioned, PC, we're seeing that above the AWQS in that one well, CC4. These contours are drawn, a little bit across central, and that's based on, previously we were able to sample some wells at the 1 East Camelback property, and the last time we sampled those wells, they had concentrations above the AWQS, and we haven't been able to sample those wells again, so, to be conservative, we're kind of still looking at those concentrations. Since we haven't seen much change in any of the other wells, I think it's somewhat reasonable to believe that they might be similar. So until we get in there and sample those wells, this is what we're going to show. That's outlined in the notes here. That data is from 2018. But really, what we're seeing is that it's now kind of limited to this area along Camelback and across the street onto that southwest corner property. Sure.
The question online is, there are 2 monitoring wells on Georgia. What are the most recent wells from that? Are you going to get to that?
I don't have those shown on here because they're below the AWQS. They are either below the AWQS or non-detect.
Okay, so he
If
said...
we sample them as part of our work program.
Okay, so Michael said when they were sampled, they were below AWQS.
They were either below the AWQS or non-detect, but I would have to see the numbers and have the data in front of me to kind of really answer that.
Okay. So would you like to... Yes, Len, go ahead.
How long does my straw have to be for me to drink that?
It's got to be pretty long. You're looking at probably 90, about maybe 70 feet out in that area.
All right.
I don't know if you'll find one of those on Amazon, maybe.
Thank you.
I'm not too sure. But I wouldn't suggest it. I wouldn't recommend it. All right.
Sandy.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so planned activities for fiscal year 2023, continue soil remediation. We'll continue our pulsed operation of the SV system. We're currently in the design and starting to get into the implementation phase of an SV optimization pilot study where we plan to inject, to sparge the soil zone with an oxidant to hopefully accelerate the degradation of PC. So I showed you a little while ago where that high concentration was on that property, and so we're going to basically design that injection system to really tackle that area. So that's the plan. It's in progress, and hoping to start that system up in sometime this fall. So that's the plan for soil at the moment. Groundwater remediation will continue our semi-annual groundwater monitoring out there. The groundwater extraction treatment system decommissioning is currently in progress. That was the case when I prepared this presentation about a month ago, or a little bit longer. The groundwater system has been removed. The building's no longer there. All the infrastructure's been abandoned in place. So really, we're kind of on the as-built, the drawing side of those activities.
No more compound on the corner?
It's gone. Yeah.
Did you ever thought you'd see the day? That's exciting.
Yeah, that was really good news. We had been below it was shut off in 2018 because of low VOC yields. And, when we shut it off, if we would have had seen rebound in any concentrations, then we would have reconsidered starting it back up, but we did it. Concentration stayed steady state, low, so that system's ready to go. So it's going. And, hopefully finalize the record of decision. That's all I have for groundwater, so any questions?
Any questions, Chad, from your CAB in-house?
So when that site goes into the development stage and somebody decides to put a building on it, all of the ground infrastructure that's there, does that have to stay there for future reference? Or how deep can they reasonably expect to excavate for, like, parking garages?
That depends on their design for that building, right? I mean, if they can dig, it depends on what they decide to build.
But they can remove the infrastructure that you left on site without...
Yeah, so the abandoned laterals that are in place, which is really, I think, the only thing that's going to remain, those were kind of deep, which is why we didn't, it wasn't really feasible to go and pull those out.
Yeah.
So if they decide that they are going to dig that deep in that area, then they can, if it's part of their development, they can remove them. There's no concern with those.
You're talking about the southwest corner? Southwest corner?
So with respect to the level we see in this one well, we're just looking at natural attenuation in the rod? Is that what we're...
Yeah, that's
there?
it right there. Natural attenuation to see what it does, because it just, with that low concentration, the other technologies are just not very feasible.
At this point, if someone were to decide to build on that site and they just wanted to remove that soil and take it away and treat it, is that something that ADEQ negotiates?
I think we'd certainly be open to that discussion, because if we're able to remove the impacted soils, then I don't know that there's a need for remediation. But that's a plan that we would have to,
That you'd have to have.
a communication on.
So if we see large bulldozers scraping and dumping things in trucks, I should call you.
You might want to call us. And you all are very good about that, like calling when you see stuff, so that's great.
And they're still occasionally tagging the other building, but...
Okay, so we do have a question, unless, do the three of you have any more?
I think we're good.
Okay, so Lynn wants to basically repeat Barry's question, but specifically for when can the Central and Cadillac property be put into productive use?
I don't know that, when can it be put into productive use? That's depending on how they want to build. I mean, we're certainly flexible to having those discussions, but I mean, whenever we have those concentrations in soil above a regulatory standard, then we need to look at that a little bit differently to make sure that there's no unwanted exposure to any tenants that might reside in that, however they develop it. But that's a conversation that we can certainly have. I guess that's my general response to that question.
Yeah, it pretty much depends on what they want to use it for, or what the productive use is.
Yeah, right. So there's different standards, right? We have one for we've been operating under the assumption that, or remediating to residential standards under the guidance that we've been given that it's going to be developed as a residential property. If it was not going to be a residential property, then there's a different standard, and that's when we would start looking at those. But really, until we know what is going to be developed there, then it's dependent on that.
All right? Okay?
No.
If there are...
You got a question?
Yes. Oh, Lynn? Yes?
Here's the question, here it comes.
Oh, okay. When can those discussions start? Well, the property owners have to come to us, right?
Yeah. We've been in communication with the property owners on our activities out there, so it would just be a matter of them reaching out to us and being more specific on what's going to take place out there.
So today then?
If they want to call Michael tomorrow.
Okay. Just curious.
Sure. Yeah, I want to say that we generally we certainly have the conversation. We wouldn't just close the door and say, no, it's not going to happen as long as we're above a certain standard. We would kind of figure out what are the options out there. So we'd certainly be open to that discussion.
And what would a non-residential development be? I mean,
Stores.
Storage
Commercial
units.
property.
Storage units.
Commercial.
Oh, the last plans I saw for the place were mixed use, everything from a movie theater to apartments. Or town. Yeah.
Yeah, there's different standards depending on the use. There's, even with a residential standard, there's like a 10 to the minus 6 concentration and 10 to the minus 5, and that's kind of based on what the actual use is. If you tell me you're putting in a daycare or something, then we're going to obviously look at the more conservative value. And I think that's outlined in the statute.
Okay.
Okay. Let me check the chat before I switch gears here. Nothing else? Okay. Thank you, Michael.
You got it.
Mike, thanks.
You got it.
Hazel, are you up? Ready?
I am.
How's your
I
trip?
think the question is, are we ready for the meeting? I'm ready.
It was raining in Tucson,
Was
like
it?
a hurricane, for like 40 minutes, so I was delayed leaving. I apologize for my tardiness.
Those are remnants of Ian.
Yeah, I think so. Like, the moisture is being pulled up from the Gulf, so on the radar that way. I'm not a meteorologist, so I only know about water underground.
I know what's going on. Yeah, I only know underground water. I don't know above ground water. You're not a meteorologist.
Even
You're a
surface
hydrologist.
water starts confusing
Yes.
these days.
There's hydrology and there's meteorology. She's
So does this work if I click
Yes,
down?
just click down and then if you have anything else, so what they're saying,
It's all water. It's a problem. Groundwater is contaminated.
And I can see
Rain
what they're
comes in.
They should bring out
Sort of thin down.
If anyone has a hard time hearing me at any point, please remind me to speak up. I have a soft voice, and I apologize for that. So this is for the 7th Street and Missouri Avenue wharf site, which was the brand new baby wharf site introduced to this cab in 2016 when it was listed. It is positioned conveniently between all of the other sites for this cab, so I appreciate you letting me come on board with this site. I didn't include one of Michael's nice little process slides, but we got through main investigation, feasibility study, QRAP, and we finalized the ROD in November of last year. However, the ROD implementation has been placed on hold while there is an appeal for judicial review that was requested by SRP, so that we're looking into that, and the ROD remains on hold while we work with SRP to figure out what to do with the well at this site and also multiple other well sites that have SRP wells. For this site, we're currently still waiting on access to the well that's at this site for us to sample it and see what the current conditions there are. So, since the last time I was So then you guys, I think we're all virtual at that point. We've continued doing the soil vapor extraction system under the Missouri Falls building that's on the southwest corner of the site. And we've continued doing the ozone sponge. I'll demonstrate on a figure later where those wells are located with the ozone sponge as an early response action. As the water is on hold, we can't implement any further remedy while we're waiting for that to be figured out. So we're continuing remediation even though we're on hold in the documentation side of things. We've conducted a couple rounds of groundwater sampling. We've been doing performance monitoring for the ozone sponge as well. And then this last summer, we performed rebound testing both for the SVE and for the ozone sponge system because we wanted to see if we would see a large rebound from those systems as they have been on for a little while. Now, I don't have the rebound data yet from the SVE system. They haven't sent me that yet, but this was it as of, I think, June of this year. So since we turned the system on in 2018, we've removed 537 pounds of PCE, and we've reduced the concentrations in the soil gas. As you can see, at the initial inlet concentration was over 5 million micrograms per cubic meter, and now we're down to 2,000 micrograms per cubic meter. We are still pulling out a lot of mass though, even though the concentrations have gone down so much. Last year alone, we pulled out over 50 pounds of PCE with the system, so it's still working, it's still pulling out mass. I'm very interested to see with the rebound, if it jumps back up to the 5 million like it did at Michael's site, or if it's a lower concentration. And I will share that once I have those results. So for the groundwater, that is also looking really nice as well. And we've seen a 2-order drop in magnitude of concentrations at the site. So the highest well that was at the source area is NW201, and it started out at over 2,000 micrograms per liter. It is currently at 81.4 micrograms per liter. So that is the well that is at the source area, and that value is after the rebound period. So we are not seeing that well rebound when the system has been shut off, which is great news. We have another well that is just down gradient of that. It's on the other side of 7th Avenue. Sorry, 7th Street, not 7th Street. NW106, which has a bit of a question mark, because its concentrations initially came down, and then they went back up. And they came down, and I'll show you the figure that didn't seem to correspond with what we were doing at the site, so that's a little bit of a question mark. And then we've seen the well that's across Missouri at the Circle K, that's on that northwest corner. We've seen that come down to below aqua water quality standards now, so that one is currently completely remediated again. That's after we turn the system on. It stayed below standards. So this is showing all of the wells, the performance monitoring wells at the site. So that's all of the wells that are right around where the source area was. And you can see that for the most part, the concentrations have gone down. So the shaded areas are when we've been running the system. So the first part is the initial pilot test we did as a proof of concept of whether ozone spot would work at the site. And then we did a second pilot because we had some strange results. And that then determined that yes, it 100% works. And we started the early response action full-scale system from that. And you can see the NW106 there, that's being really annoying. That has...
Is that the red one?
That's the red one. But during the second pilot test went down. And then during the ERA, initially it was down and then came back up. And now has gone back down again to around where it was at the beginning of the ERA. So we have some suspicions that this is to do with the shifting groundwater flow direction at the site. So when we started the ERA, the groundwater flow direction was to the north-northeast. It is now due north-northeast. So NW106 is now directly down gradient of the former source area. And I can show you that in the next slide. So you can see that NW201 at 81.4 is where the original source was under that building on the southwest side of the junction. That was the well that was originally at 2000 when we turned on the system. So you can see that MW106 is now directly down gradient of that area. So we think the shifting in the groundwater flow direction pulled some of that mass that was in the original source area over to that corner. And we're just seeing that show up now. It is located exactly where we have our ozone injection wells. There are two located on the west side of the street between NW201 and NW108. And then there are 5 located on the east side of the street. 3 going down the east side of 7th and then 2 going east along Missouri. And I apologize, I didn't include a figure of that. That was my oversight. So NW106 is surrounded by injection wells, so we are expecting, now we've seen that mass show up, we are expecting that our system should be able to remediate it. So, future plan work at the site, we need to evaluate that NEDAM data, especially for the SBE that we haven't seen yet. And then determine if any revenue enhancements would be good, especially like in the area of 106. Do we need to put in another injection well in that area? And then also still moving forward with SRP, working with them to get the situation resolved.
Are they pulling water out of their wells right now? Do you know?
The well at this site, they have told us they are not currently pumping except to test the water. That well is located. I'll point for the people in the room, right here off to the side, for the people online. It is
The square
the
red
square
box.
one that says SRP well.
It helps to know what to
Yes.
look for.
So we were very glad to see NGW3 go down to below standards because now we have an undetect well between our plume and the SRP well. So we are hopeful that that indicates that the groundwater has been remediated out in that direction. So that's why we want to get access and sample the well so we can verify that.
We have a question online. There's some audio feedback, but this is from Chris. She wants to know, was Hazel indicating that the groundwater flow direction has changed?
Yes. So this site, when it was, right before it was listed, the groundwater flow direction was due north. When we started the ERAs back in 2018, 2019, it had switched to the north-northeast, and now it is due northeast.
Okay. Yes.
Any explanation?
Yes, so the canal, the Grand Canal, the section just south of this site was the last section to be lined. It was in the 2000s. So this is the last area of groundwater mounding we're still seeing from that site. So it is starting to dissipate and we're starting to see the groundwater shift to natural flow directions.
What is the natural flow direction?
It would actually be in 180 degrees.
That's what I thought.
So the opposite way.
Yes. So it might be like one of the other sites, I forget, was it Central and Camelback where the plume came back?
North Canal.
Okay. I can't remember. But there was one where the groundwater flow direction shifted because of the lining of the canal and the plumes came back to our remediation system.
So it helps.
And another thing I wanted to point out is how small our plume now is. I don't know if you noted that, but it used to be out to NW210. That area has naturally attenuated with a lack of input from the source area. And so we have now a much nicer small plume.
So that's also really good news as well. think, yeah.
So if you have any questions, there's my contact information.
Any questions? We don't have any questions. Anybody online?
Do any of the CAB members online have questions? You can either unmute or you can type a Q in the chat if you're typing it out. While we're waiting a few seconds for that, I will unshare because we're done with the presentation portion of the meeting. Okay, seeing no questions, then on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Chad, we can move on to the agenda, which I think is only like 1 or 2 things left, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we've taken care of all the ADEQ presentation discussions. Any other questions by the public?
Yeah, I mean, we can go to call to the public now if you want.
Yeah.
So this is the call to the public. Most of our public is online. So any last questions or clarifications on what you heard tonight from the people on the Zoom call?
No questions for me, but thank you for the presentations.
Was that Beth?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. Great, thank you, Beth. Okay.
We'll go ahead and,
It says, thank you for accommodating us with the Zoom option. You're welcome, and thank you for accommodating us with navigating through that Zoom option. Because last time we had a Zoom meeting, just real quick, we couldn't get one of the computers to log in, and we had to use a school computer, then we had to download. And so this time we had both computers up and running, and then we couldn't figure out which one was the one that, so each time it's a new challenge, but we are getting through it, and this way we can accommodate all people and make sure this is a informative, well-functioning meeting. So thank you for being accommodating, and you're very welcome. I'm just glad that we now have the technology to accommodate this option for all parties. Okay? So unless, I'll let you know, Chad, if another question pops up, but if not, you can keep going on the agenda.
discussion in regards to CAB co-chairs nomination and vote.
Okay, well, obviously
So-
this is the chance for Chad and Pam to, hit the ground running, or they can choose to stay, or somebody else would like to nominate a co-chair. It's not that Chad and Pam are doing a good job. It's just every year we have to go out for nomination, and if they so choose to continue, that's fine. You may self-nominate, or if one of you two would like to step down, but this is the chance for that. And we would also just move forward and we need a motion. So Chad and Pam,
I'm sorry.
are you good for staying on?
If someone else wished to pick up the reins, I would step down, but if everybody's going to avoid that, I can do this for another year. The 20th, or the Camelback and Central is still working.
It's almost done.
It's almost done.
Okay. So, and Chad, are you willing to stay on as well?
Yeah, if Lynn's not willing to, I will.
Well, Lynn actually just nominated Chad and Pam.
Oh, bless his heart.
So we need a motion then in that case.
I move that Chad and Pam continue as co-chairs.
Okay, that will stand. Is there a second?
I second.
Well, now we hear.
Go figure.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Yay.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, looks like we're in.
All right, let's like get in for another year. I mean, you can't quit now. It's almost done.
I know,
right?
I've got,
We might have a delisting and a commissioning of the compound, so hey. All right?
We went over meeting minutes already.
Okay.
Future meeting agenda discussion. We're going to go back in and we're going to address the items for the charter, correct?
Yeah, I'll send you, like I mentioned, I'll send you the legal, what changed and how it changed, and then we'll adjust the charter. And Teresa and I are also going to go back and take a another look at this too for the other church ordinances as well. So.
Any other items we need to add on to the agenda? That time? Something comes up, let us know.
Yeah, so I would just say another year, year and a half, 2 years, depending on when you all want to meet and when our project managers have some exciting news.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
A motion.
Yes.
We'll take that as a yes and a second.
Yes.
Very good. Our meeting is adjourned.
And as always, we send the CAB updates throughout the year, and if there is any movement on sites, we also will let you all know. We also, anything on the public is put online and on the email, so I encourage everybody on the phone, if you haven't already, sign up for the email subscribe list for these sites. Okay? Now with that, we will adjourn, and we did get done before 8, even with the technical snafu.
We will one day get the technical staff.
Yes.
Thank you for attending and being here.
Then you have to turn around.